We are live. What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob, here with a couple buddies. We will start over here to my far left.
Hey everyone, Elliot, Single Malt Mack on Instagram. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Or Rob, sorry.
I can be the host, we're both technically. Jeremy feels like this is his house anyway.
Yeah.
He's got a key and everything.
I'm here enough.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this guy beside me, but you might have seen him in a couple videos before.
I'm just here to drink.
He's just here to drink. We got some beauties in front of us today.
Yeah.
Elliot, why don't you tell us about these beauties?
Right.
Which one should we start with? Should we start with the single malt?
Yeah, let's start with the single malt. Yeah, so we're talking Boulder Spirits. We're lucky enough to have this stuff in Canada, thanks to the guys out in Alberta, Travis and Steve with PWS Imports. But this stuff's from Boulder, Colorado, hence the name Boulder Spirits, right? So this is their American single malt expression. What do we got here? 46%, yeah. And all of Boulder stuff is number 3 char New American Oak, minimum of 3 years aged. They get their malt from a company out in the UK, bring it in, and then make their distillate there with their still that they have, Forsyth still that they brought in. Nice. The owner, Alistair, brought it in from Scotland, so it's a unique feature to this distillery.
I love how like a lot of the American single malts still kind of keep the culture of like the American style of making whiskey with the new oak.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is about 3 years old, new oak, right? Char number 3, like you said.
Yep.
And sorry, where do they source the barley from?
So it's from the UK, from a company. Can't remember the name.
It's UK barley.
Yeah, it's UK barley. Yeah, it's brought in, and then their distillate's made in house in Colorado. They use pure Colorado water, and yeah, it's all new white oak, American oak,
right.
number 3 char. But yeah, they're one of the pioneers, I'd say, and they'd say too in the American single malt movement right now, and especially it's becoming litigated or legal spirit, if you will. It's going to have its rules and regulations, right? So
yeah, I wonder if they're going to keep the new oak as part of the rules like they do with bourbon.
Yeah, I think it is. It's going to be a part of it for sure.
Okay, cool. And you know what? I love that idea because I feel like to kick off a spirit, a couple years in new oak will really start off the maturation in a good direction, right? So
yeah, and one of the cool things about Boulder too is the altitude and the climate, right? So they find their stuff ages a lot quicker than it would in Scotland or somewhere else, right? Yeah. So 3 years in New American Oak in Boulder, Colorado, might compare a lot older whiskey.
Do they get warm summers there? Like pretty warm?
Yeah, I believe there's quite a fluctuation. Yeah, similar to us here, right?
Huge swings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the altitude also with the difference in barometric pressure from what other places experience.
Okay. That's real
makes a big difference.
Yeah, doing that. That's crazy.
What do they say where they source their water? Sorry.
I can't remember the specifics, but it's from just really local to them. A well or whatever for it's pure Colorado water. Yeah.
I wonder if they would set a record for the highest altitude distillery in the U.S.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Could be close to it.
Who else is distilling way up in Colorado is high up?
Yeah, so Colorado has a few distilleries now.
Yep.
They have I think Stranahan's is there. That was one of the first, right?
Yeah, Woody Creek is there. Boulder was there. They started in 2007, I believe. They were called Roundhouse Spirits.
Okay.
They just did gin, and then Alistair came over from Scotland in 2012, invested in the distillery, came up with Vapor Distillery, and then in I think it was 2019 they rebranded as Boulder Spirits, and started this brand.
Cool brand. I like the labeling. I like the bottles, and I like the name. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and it's actually paying homage to where it's actually located, right in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. And for it to be, it's one thing for it to be American single malt, but I found it cool too that it's a Scotsman that's crafting the spirit, with a Scottish still, So, even though it's still American single malt, it's getting that climate, it's getting the new American oak barrels, but it's got the touch of the Scottish style.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the sweetness on here is great.
Mm-hmm.
The oak aspect is really nice, very nice and creamy, and the viscosity is great as well.
Get a nice like cola note on the finish, like a little bit of like a flat like Coca-Cola sweetness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait till you get into the next one. I think you're gonna really notice that. Yeah.
I find that's the new oak speaking for the most part.
Yeah.
That combination of barley and new oak, I think it works really, really well. This is unpeated, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's just 100% straight American single malt. Ryan, who's Alistair's right hand man at the distillery, basically, he'll tell you that's the difference. That's the difference in the new American oak versus reused bourbon barrels or whatever for other single malts, right? That's where you really get that, like you mentioned, the creaminess. I noticed such a spiciness that's for only 3-year-old whiskey. It's really well made.
Yeah, no, this is great.
And I feel like it hasn't taken away from the distillate either. Like you can still get that distillate characteristic in here too.
Yeah. Honestly, I love that. Like even on the nose, I'm getting it now. That Coca-Cola note kind of. When I find that in a whiskey, I try to like buy up that kind of whiskey because
that nice spiciness too.
Yeah.
The spice note on the nose is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I find even on the back end of the palate, towards the finish, it really lingers there too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't.
No, there's a good viscosity to this. Good finish, nice mouthfeel. Do you know what retail is on this? This is the standard American single malt, about 3 years old or 3 years old.
Yeah.
And 46% for those of you guys, give you guys a better look.
There you go. Yeah. So from what I know, I think it's about $70. I know the standard bourbon is that Canadian, anyways. What it is U.S. price, not 100% sure. But yeah, roughly 70, and then their next one's up. Like let's say the bottled and bond or any special finish is closer to 100 for Canadians, anyways.
Was there like any discussion as far as how are we going to present this whiskey? We're going to do it at 46. Was that always something that they thought about from the very beginning, like doing it the way that Scotch drinkers would want it to be presented?
I have a feeling so. I don't know for sure. I can't speak exactly for it, but I mean, just knowing the history of the distillery and with Alistair being Scottish and that, I have a feeling that plays a really large role in it.
Right.
I also think that there's so much more to come too, because they only barreled their first malt in 2015.
Oh wow.
So the still didn't make it there until 2014. They didn't barrel their first stuff until 2015.
So they shipped the still straight from Scotland.
Yeah. So
how much was the shipping on that?
yeah, who knows? Yeah.
So whiskey sit is saying the altitude ages the whiskey faster, similar to Texas dry high heat.
Yeah. So I think for them to 46% for them would almost be low, because their alcohol percentage tends to climb. It doesn't dissipate like some Scottish malts would, right?
Yeah. Because I guess are there even mountains in Scotland? I wouldn't I'm speaking purely out of ignorance right now. I have no idea, but I would assume not.
It's hilly, but I don't think
hilly.
It's not mountainous.
Cliffs.
I don't think there's a big altitude up and down.
No. Yeah, I don't think so either. So that's definitely an advantage. I wonder how similar the climate is to something like Shelter Point, who would have a very similar type landscape with, the only difference is I guess the ocean is nearby in Shelter Point, whereas these guys are more
get that sea air kind of influence.
Right.
Yeah, BC definitely does not get as cold as Colorado, I don't think.
Yeah, I wonder if lowland Colorado is the same temperature as in the mountains and stuff. Obviously it's not, right? It's colder in the mountains.
Fluctuate.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So I wonder, but that would be interesting to know what the steady temperature is. Highlands are over 1,000 meters above sea level. Interesting. the Highlands in Scotland. I'm assuming he's talking about.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, so whiskey sit. Why is that hard to say?
Whiskey theft. Whiskey theft. Whiskey theft.
Call him Daryl.
Daryl. All right, we got a bunch of people in the chat today. What's going on, guys? Peter White's in the house. He was mentioning Stranahan's earlier as well.
Okay.
So Stranahan's is I guess I would assume the oldest distillery in Colorado, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'd be guessing as well. Like, they were in 2007 when they applied for their distillate license or whatever it's called, distillery license. They were the 9th distillery at that time, so 2007. So I would imagine there's quite a few more since then.
Yeah, it's crazy what's happened in the U.S. with distilleries. They're like everywhere now.
Yeah,
and Colorado in particular has like bloomed.
Yeah.
Like, just a ton of distilleries opened up in the last little while.
I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about, the regulations with bourbon in particular is that it just has to be continental U.S., right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody always assumes that it has to come from Kentucky
or
or whatever, right? But no, it can be anywhere. So I think a lot of places are really taking advantage of that, right? There's Travis Laws Distillery. Stay tuned. Yeah, that's right. Laws is coming very soon, I think. Which is another distillery that's getting high accolades. So
yeah, that's pretty cool that they're owned by a husband and wife from Edmonton. That's really cool.
Interesting.
Okay, so I snuck ahead and I'm nosing
all right,
the Trailhead.
I'm also on that one as well.
Which is 52.5% ABV and 4.5 years old.
Yeah. So this one, Ryan and Alistair at Boulder Spirits will say that this is some of the best stuff that they've ever made. And when Travis and Steve from PWS went down there, they tasted it straight from the cask. I think they said they tasted it at above 60%.
Oh, wow.
And they absolutely loved it. Right. So it was then proofed down a little bit. I think they ended up with 800 bottles or so, and yeah, it's phenomenal. I love it. I've got like this much left in my bottle. I've only had it for a couple weeks. I've shared a little bit of it too, so it's not just me. But it's basically 2 casks, both New American Oak, 1 peated malt, 1 unpeated malt. They're aged 4 years. Then they're both finished for another year in PX casks.
Okay.
And then married together to make this beauty here. So
altogether 2 casks worth of whiskey in the vatting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For a total of 5 years of time in a barrel.
Nice. Whiskey Sith is hired. The quick. Actually, we have our boy P-Boss, Silent Bob in the background today. First time in 3 years.
We miss Silent Bob.
We do.
You guys wouldn't know because you wouldn't know if he's here or not, but he is here today.
True. Yeah, but Whiskey Sith is kind of like stealing his thunder tonight with the
Whiskey
Google
Sith
searches.
is on the ball. We can get Silent Bob to look up some secondary prices if we want to talk that later, maybe.
Yeah, so Boulder is 400 meters higher than the highest point in Scotland.
There you go.
So that's cool information.
400 meters is a lot.
And then Peter White saying 291 Distillery is in Colorado, but very pricey.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was going to mention them as well, but I couldn't remember if it was 291 or 293, so I just let it go.
Between Texas and Colorado, are they like the 2 main states that are making single malt? Like American single malt? It seems like a lot of stuff's coming out of those 2 places. Right?
Yeah, I know there's a few others that have. I think maybe Taconic in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a single malt expression.
Okay.
There are a few. You hear of different places that have, but you would actually think California would be a great place to age whiskey and have a whiskey distillery because they're ocean influenced, hot climate all the time.
Yeah.
Probably pretty cool.
I think there are some down there. I don't know if they do single malt, but there are some California distilleries for sure. But
the water is probably garbage.
The water is probably not
right.
Yeah, that's
import water.
But then again, what's Texas water like?
I don't know.
I mean, do they even get water?
Maybe North Texas. Maybe North Texas would get good water.
Yeah, I would guess so. Just
It's just a pipeline.
Opening up the like complete ignorance. Of
Well, I
this.
know. It's like, oh my God, 3 Canadians talking about America water.
That's right. Yeah.
This nose is beautifully, by the way.
Yeah. The nose on this one, I mean, and honestly, it only opens up more as you go through it.
This is great. This is a sherry head's wheelhouse right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So finished in PX, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You get the peat, but it's not like overwhelmingly peaty. For those who are not looking for peat, they might not even really get too much.
You wouldn't, because
Right?
I wasn't looking for it and I didn't get it, and then you mentioned it, and then you kind of dig in, and
It's like,
maybe
oh, yeah,
you
there
can
it
get
is.
a little smoke.
Yeah.
I think they get their peated malt at 35 parts per million.
Okay.
But then I think they mix it with unpeated before they put their peated malt in a cask.
Okay.
So it's even a little bit reduced from there.
Brought down lower.
And then this one then is married with the full cask of unpeated as well, right? So kind of cuts it in half.
A very unique style that definitely works.
Yeah. So there you have it with the quick fingers over there. P-Boss coming in. He's like, I ain't letting anybody steal my thunder. Stranahan's is the oldest Colorado distillery at 2004. Interesting. Every once in a while, I see my puffer coming, like he wants to steal some thunder over here on this side. He never swims that high in the tank. He's just
make it part of the show.
Yeah, he's a camera whore. So actually, I didn't show this one up close. Cool labeling. I like the colors that they chose for this.
Canada exclusive, so they added that Northern Neighbors label there. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but
I don't know why it's not.
Hide your face.
It's not coming in right well. But anyways, yeah, it's PWS and Lionheart Spirits in BC. So that's the only place that's getting this, other than the distillery. They kept a few back for themselves.
And this was something they went down there. They picked the casks themselves.
Yeah. They picked out the whiskey themselves. So
PWS is picking some awesome stuff.
yeah, they really are. Yeah,
they're picking some awesome stuff. The Bimber that we tried recently was awesome.
Very, very good.
And this is really good. This is a great choice. This cask is awesome.
Yeah, so you see that that cola note I was talking about, like
100%.
You find it's kind of elevated in this one compared to the first one.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, everything is elevated in this one.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
The complexity's there.
Yeah, the sweetness is elevated. The overall mouthfeel.
Mm-hmm.
You're it's more complex.
Yeah, Sean Kincaid, Dark Cloud Whiskey there on Instagram. He tasted this before I got to taste it, and that's the first note that he said. And as soon as I grabbed it, that's exactly. It's almost like a Dr. Pepper kind of syrupy cola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, viscosity on this one through the roof as well.
Yeah, it really is. So Whiskey Sid is saying that Bimber Canada edition could be Whiskey of the Year for him. It's funny. I spoke about that with a friend with P-Boss recently. It's up there. It's really good.
Yeah, we just poured that one at the Toronto Whiskey Society tasting.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was a big hit too.
Yeah, honestly, that one is a tropical fruit bomb. This is really cool though. This is really good. I'm really happy about this.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm happy to be kind of somewhat working with them and spreading the Boulder love in Canada for the guys at PWS. But when you're asked to help work for a company that's making stuff like this, and like I said,
a lot easier.
Yeah, their oldest barrels right now are 7 years old, so this is only 4, and then finished for another year. So I can only imagine what some of their 7-year-old.
Sure, it's got to be so refreshing to try something like this from a new distillery. Even like, okay, this is where this distillery could go. Like the potential, is great. Like you're coming in with this stuff at very very early on.
Yeah,
I mean the potential is there for sure.
Claire the Third says I have the best fish tank on YouTube. He hasn't watched FishTube though. Maybe on Whiskey Tube for sure. But Peter White saying Oregon seems to have a bunch of distilleries. McCarthy's for one.
Eric White thinks my hair is too tall.
I was gonna say, and then he says, "Send to me." Like, does he mean like send you to him?
I think it's just like he's saying like it's too
Oh no, send to me as in like send the hair to him because he's bald.
It's too high.
Yes, it's too tall.
Right.
Yeah. So it's got like that Kramer action.
I'm very much Kramer with this one. Thanks, Eric, though.
Thanks for pointing it out. He wants you to send the haircut to him. So the cut hairs.
Do you think if you took my haircut and put on Eric White, it would look good?
Yeah. I think
Eric White, I should say.
I mean, yeah, I think it would be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, so I'm actually, this is really cool for me too, because like I told you guys earlier, I'm pouring these two at my tasting in November, right?
Yeah.
And I've never actually poured the new
regular
American.
single.
Yeah. So I mean, to do them side by side now, it's kind of like a warm up. I get to kind of prep myself for the upcoming thing. But
Rob likes to talk about like pour and play whiskeys, and this one for sure is that, right?
Yeah.
It's something you can just put out. You don't have to like put water in it. It's just the way it is perfect. It's a great sit back and drink whiskey.
Absolutely.
I think, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, despite the ABV on this one, it's still pretty pour and play for me. Like,
That's true.
Right? Like 52.5, but does not drink like 52.5, in my opinion.
Yeah. And like they said that too. Like we did a live on it not too long ago on Instagram with Travis and Steve, and Ryan from Boulder jumped on, and I think initially it was like 64% or something. And then when Travis and Steve tasted it, they said that I think it was around 60. But yeah, at the 64%, even then they said like, you know, it really didn't taste that high. Right. Wow. So, yeah, kind of cool. But
it is, yeah. No, honestly, it's really, really good. I like that a lot. I like finding out about stuff like this because it makes you excited to see what's coming next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what happens when this is 10 years old? What happens when it's 15 years old?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the sky's the limit for companies like this.
And the sherry cask they're sourcing, do you know anything exactly about that? Or
I can't remember the specifics. No. I'd just be guessing, but
you can tell they're good though.
Yeah,
right? You can tell they're sherry cask.
Even just the color. I mean, obviously the new oak helps with that, right?
Yep.
But
and
like the tinge in color, you can tell it was a active cask.
Yeah, you can tell, right? Like just with this one in number 3 char for 3 years, right? It's got a great color to it too, but yeah, this one's definitely darker. So there's definitely quite a bit of the sherry influence.
Are they experimenting with anything like at a higher char level, or they're just sticking to 3s?
Yeah, right now, as far as I know, everything's poured into number 3 char.
Okay.
Same, you know, new 53-gallon white American oak. It's their bourbons are all the same mash bill as well. They don't switch it up, but they're all high malt. Like it's 51% corn, 44% malted barley in the bourbons. Yeah, and then 5% rye. So even their bourbons, you know, have that maltiness to it that you know, I personally really like.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can taste so many different bourbons, and a bourbon's a bourbon.
True.
And to some extent,
it's hard to distinguish like what, like, you know, So it's definitely cool to see, you know, somebody putting a little bit higher malt content in their standard bourbon releases.
Have we had a barely legal bourbon with that much malt in it?
No.
Never.
No.
Never ever.
Yeah.
I don't think it exists. I could be wrong. I know that there's like straight like barley.
Usually doing 51% corn, the rest of it's rye, right? Or the majority of the rest of it would be rye. But not.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so that's, again, I think that's the Scottish influence from Alistair in it, right? Is that you know,
I like that the trend is like moving in that direction. You're seeing more and more single malt stuff come out through lots of different distilleries now, which is really cool.
I would love to have Alistair on the channel just to like pick his brain a little bit, because so like Shelter Point did something very similar with their old master distiller, or at least one of the distillers there. He's moved on now and they're still doing an incredible job, but it definitely left a footprint for like them carrying forward. It seems like the trend now to get the guys that know, let's be honest, like single malt best, which is the Scottish, and then, you know, learn from them. And I think Ralphie mentions how Scottish distilleries have to be weary of what's happening everywhere else in the world.
He did warn them about that a very long time ago too.
Because everybody's making good whiskey now, or not everybody, but there's a lot of really good whiskey out there. And Boulder is a great example of that. Like what happens when this is 10 years old,
Yeah.
easily accessible,
Yeah.
and you know what? You don't want that. You don't want that Macallan anymore because there's better whiskey that's
Sure.
Yeah, and
around the corner.
it's not necessarily that you don't want that Macallan anymore, but it might be just that you don't want that Macallan for that price anymore.
Exactly.
Right? You're going to
Yeah.
go for something like this that knocks your socks off for a tenth of the price. Or
Exactly.
something, right? Like,
Exactly. And that's a huge deal, right?
Yeah,
Like at the end of the day, whiskey's going up in price, but I don't think people's wages have changed that much in the
No.
last 5 years. You know what I mean? Like everything has gone way expensive, double, tripled, the housing market, the whiskey market, everything. But really, are we making that much more money than we were 5 years ago? Probably not,
No,
if
definitely not.
at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting next 5 to 10 years because I think a lot of companies like this are going to start to take over because it just makes sense. Like we're not made of money and we can't be buying up all these ridiculously expensive whiskeys anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, it's UK barley,
Yeah.
like it's
Exactly.
It's just aged somewhere else and made somewhere else. But, I love the stuff.
Yeah. They're doing a great job.
Well, it's
That's
like,
awesome.
how does like a new distillery like break into the market? You have to do a couple of things. You have to source good barrels to age your stuff in, right?
Yep.
Obviously, these sherry casks are very good quality. You can tell right away that they are.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, like if you want to come in and compete, the formula is there. It's attention to detail, quality ingredient distilling.
I wonder if this is Colorado oak. Like it's American oak. We know that, but I wonder if it's from Colorado.
I got it written down here. I'm going to pull up my notes.
All right.
Just because I have the name of the cooperage that they get it from. So maybe we can do a Google and find out exactly where the cooperage makes their. Let's see here, Kelvin Cooperage.
Kelvin, that's a common one, right?
Yeah.
That sounds very familiar. I think a lot of bourbon companies use Kelvin Cooperage, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, Kelvin Cooperage. Where are they from?
More
importantly, where do they source their wood from?
we got Sam and Bob working on it in the background.
There will be a Halloween video this year. Rob Whiskey and the Six co-starring, and six Gin Rock and Roll also making a cameo appearance.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I just purchased a drone today.
How much was that?
Cheap.
Was it cheap?
I just bought a cheap one because like I need it for one shot. I need one drone shot in the thing. So I'm like, am I buying an entire drone for one shot?
I'm really.
You take it back after?
I mean, I could just return it.
It didn't
I
work.
Just pack it right back in the box. As long as I don't crash it. I
Should have came with me to Costco and then they take everything back.
Yeah, bro.
There you go.
Yeah, really challenging myself this year with the script. So we'll see how it turns out. But I hope there's some jokes in there that I think you guys will like.
Rob will be appearing as Saw. Let the guessing begin. It's gonna be funny.
We're doing a parody on the 1995 classic 7.
You gave it away.
I've already mentioned it a million times before.
Have you?
Yeah.
I gotta get a 7 poster back there.
It's such a good movie. I was watching some of it today.
That's the sci-fi wall. Maybe I'll do like the thriller wall.
Well, yeah.
But you already got some Brad Pitt up there. You really need more Brad Pitt?
Yeah, Brad. You can't have enough Brad Pitt.
all right.
Okay, what are you trying to say?
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, have you
I like
watched
Brad
12
Pitt.
Monkeys?
I do. I have. It's very nice.
Brad Pitt is like as great as he is and as rich as he is and famous. He's still pretty underrated because he's a pretty boy. So everybody like disqualifies his acting like capabilities.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. We are approaching the 30-minute mark, and these gentlemen both are hardworking men. They both work early in the morning. So tell these guys where they can find you, because you're also on Instagram. You're doing some really hilarious videos on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And if they don't know, they need to know.
Yeah. So at Single Malt Mack on Instagram. I do some really, as Rob would say, hilarious or stupid or whatever, but they're fun and they give people a laugh. So I'll keep doing them until somebody says please stop. But yeah, other than that, you know, I've started coming around to some clubs and some whiskey societies and stuff, and doing some stuff for the guys from PWS. I'm going to be doing a lot more Boulder stuff. Be doing some laws stuff in the future, hopefully here. And hit me up on Instagram. I got a couple of my own whiskey club tastings I'm going to be putting together. One coming up in November. So if you live in Newmarket or Aurora and you're looking for a good evening of whiskey, then that'd be fun. We're tasting both of these at that event. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Yeah. So please follow. Doing a great job and connecting with a really cool company, because I really enjoyed these.
Yeah, me too.
You did as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we sign off, I just want to, like, maybe if you're in the California area, you might want to call 911 for Eric Waite, because it looks like he's having a stroke. I don't know what the hell's
going on, Eric? Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. Hopefully I'm kidding. I mean, if that's true, then signal to us somehow.
Maybe there's something about the California water we were talking about.
Right. California water has definitely poisoned Eric.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining. Please follow both of these gentlemen. You know this guy beside me. You see him quite often behind this bar, or in front of this bar, I guess. Behind this bar that they never see, actually. They only see the bottles.
They see the countertop. They do.
Do they see the?
It's in frame.
It's in frame. You frame it.
Yeah.
You make sure it's in frame.
There you go.
All right.
Look at that. The puffer's going nuts. I told you. It's big, right?
The puffer, yeah,
he's bigger.
He loves attention.
He's triple in size since you first got on.
Yeah. Well, they're almost a year old. Or like I've almost had them for.
Are they max grown?
No, they're all probably about half of what they're gonna be.
Really? Yeah.
Maybe less.
Bigger tank.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Honestly, it was
a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and we're gonna continue having a couple of drams, but we'll let you guys go. Pick up some Boulder if you haven't already. It's really, really good stuff. This is still available, right? Yeah,
there's some still available in Alberta. Might be really limited, but then it's coming to BC soon as well.
There you go.
Yeah, and if you're in Colorado, you can go right to the distillery and get some if they still have some too. So, but the rest of the stuff, Alberta, anywhere that PWS or Lionheart Spirits products are, you can get it there. So
awesome. Thanks, Elliot.
Yeah,
really
cheers.
appreciate it.
Thanks, cheers. Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys.
See you guys. I drink fast tonight again.